On Life, Death, and Beyond, we welcome Lynn Russell. Lynn Russell is a near-death experience researcher, author, and lifelong spiritual seeker who has studied more than 2,500 near-death experience accounts in search of deeper truths about consciousness, life, and what lies beyond. Raised in an atheist home, Lynn's quest for truth led her to explore world religions, spiritual philosophies, and first-hand accounts from those who have crossed the thresholds of death and returned. Through her research, she discovered striking similarities reported across thousands of experiences, including telepathy, overwhelming love, life reviews, and a sense of unity beyond identity. She is the author of Beyond NDEs, The Next Step in Near-Death Experience Research, The Wonder of You, and a children's book, Whirlpool, which shares messages of oneness, kindness, and love. Learn more about Lynn and her work at lynnKrussell.com and many other social media platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. See the description for more information. Welcome, Lynn. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thanks. So before we get started with the topics in our conversation today, would you share a little bit about your background and where you're from?
Well, I guess my background when it comes to spirituality began about 8 years old. I was raised in an atheist home, and my grandfather died. And so that made me realize that someday I was going to die. And that was very, very scary to me. So I went to my mom and asked her, what happens when you die? And she said, nothing, you just disappear. And when she said that, that was like a bombshell for me. I was terrified. That stayed with me for many, many years. And I was just terrified that I was going to die and disappear. And I didn't want to disappear. So in my mid-teens, I mean, even right then, I remember at 9 years old going to local churches, but I didn't understand what they were talking about. And, I mean, I really didn't understand it all. So when I was in my teens, I started to study different religions and what, in those days, there was nothing but religions. That's all there was. And so I did study those, but I didn't go into philosophers because that was over my head. I thought it wasn't really, but I thought it was. Anyway, so I was about 16, 15, 16 in that age. And so that was like 72 years ago, 73. So it's a lot of time ago.
Perfect. Yeah. And so what brought you to actually studying near-death experiences?
So as I grew up and I did get some understanding when spirituality came in, and I had an STE. So I did get some understanding, but I didn't even understand what that was. I didn't know the bottom line, and so I was still looking for truth, whatever that might be. And when I retired from being a family counselor for 30 years, I happened to go online and I came across the NDERF site, which is Near Death Experience Research Foundation. So when I got there, I was thrilled. I thought, oh, wow, this is perfect. And so I was there and I got onto the chat line and visiting people. And Dr. Long, who is one of the owners of that site, asked for someone to do research. And so I had just recently retired. I had lots of time. So that's how come I got involved with it.
Beautiful.
And it was exactly what I wanted. When I first started to do the research, I was mostly interested in what people said about what happened after you die. But when after a while, I was starting to see spiritual messages and deeper spiritual information. And so that's what hooked me. And I
Mm.
really was thrilled then. And that's what I stayed with.
Beautiful, beautiful. Would you mind sharing your spiritually transformative experience?
Oh, sure, sure. Well, I was a single parent mother with three children. They were 4, 5, and 6. And so when the experiences happened, they were always in an afternoon when the 5 and 6-year-old were at school. And sorry, when the 5 or 6-year-old were at school, and I also the youngest one was down for a nap. And so the house was quiet every single time. And it was three different experiences that all sort of blended together into one. And so the first experience was that I was doing the dishes after lunch and the kids gone. And there's a sink, and there was a window above the sink, and I'm looking out the window at an apple tree. And it happened to be spring, it was May. And the tree was full of blossoms. And so I was fascinated with that, really. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I became the tree. I was that tree, and the tree was me. There was no difference between us. And I was every single kind of life form that I could think of. I became it, and it became me. There was no separation at all. And that was really cool. And it only lasted seconds, maybe 30 seconds most. And then that was the end of it. So I didn't think there was any more coming. So I really didn't pay attention to time or when that happened. And anyway, uh, I was thrilled because I thought, whoa, that was really cool. And I had never read any books on anything like that before. So that was sort of a door opening for me on the oneness. And then the next experience was a few days later. And this time I'm wiping fingerprints and marks off the hall wall. And again, it was as if my awareness or my consciousness was taken over, and I wasn't seeing the wall anymore. I was seeing an atom with the nuclei and the electrons all going around. And then that expanded to our solar system with the sun and the planets going around. And then that expanded to galaxies. So it was like from the micro to the macro universe, and while this was happening, I was getting information. And the information said this didn't just happen. There was order and planning behind all of this. And so that was cool. That was, I really liked that information because it sort of fit with me. I thought, yeah, that makes sense. But the next message I did not like at all because it said my being was intricately connected with the operation of the universe. And that blew me away. That scared me. I didn't want to, I don't know why. I thought maybe that there was some big expectation I was going to have that, I would mess up. And so I shoved that away, and that was the end of the experience. Maybe if I hadn't have gotten nervous at that time, it would have continued on. But anyway, so then a few days later, I was in my living room and I was picking up toys and just tidying up. And again, I felt this presence in the room with me. Now, I couldn't see a thing. All I could do was this very strong feeling of more love than I can ever imagine. It just was blow your mind kind of a love. So that was really big. And that love was it was like an entity. It was a being of some sort. And so it was giving me this love, but it was also um, wrapping me up. Like I felt like I was in a blanket of lots of warm fuzzies. Anyway, so then from there, I heard a message, and the message was very clear in my ear, and it said, "This is where you came from, and this is where you will return." And that was like, yes. uh, it just answered all my questions about death. Well, sort of. But anyway, and so after that experience, I walked off the ground for months. Nothing the kids did bothered me. Noise didn't bother me. Everything. I was like in seventh heaven for a long time. For about 3 months, I was, in another world.
Wow, that's amazing experiences.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, and so with the you getting the information, I've had some of those experiences when I do cleaning as well, or ironing, or I think it's like when you become in this state of stillness, uh, like being present in that moment of whatever we're doing, whether we're washing walls or dishes, like that's when there's time for the information and knowledge to come in. It's like a
Yeah,
window,
yeah.
and they're able to bring that forward. So I love those experiences. Thank you for sharing.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you said you were afraid of or feared, knowing that you were part of it all.
I was afraid. Oh, yes, because I thought that it was telling me that there was some job or some, like, it said my being was connected to the operation of the universe. And I thought to myself, that's too big. I can't take that, because I thought then I had to do something for the operation of the universe. And that was just too big for me. Now I understand it completely.
Mm. Yeah, because I want to kind of dive into that since you brought it up, because a lot of people might think that, they're here to change the world, or, they have something that they're taking on that is too much responsibility for them.
Yeah.
We're part
And
of it. We're aspect of God or source or whatever you want to call it, from my understanding, but we're not here to be that. There's one creator that I know of. And so, some people may mistake that, and so, I can see where fear would arise, in that if we didn't have fully understanding of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, no, you did say something and it's gone now. Okay, I was going to mention something that connected to what you were talking about, but it's gone. Sorry.
No problem. If it comes back, just let me know. We can
Yeah.
kind of go back. Yeah. So definitely love that. Um, and so from there, you kind of went into researching near-death experiences and you wrote a book, right?
Yes, when I was first doing the research, I had no intentions of writing a book. I had other books that I wanted to write, but not spiritual books, because I didn't think I knew enough. Even though I'd spent years and years and years and years studying, I was just studying what was already out there. So I didn't think I had anything to add. But when I started to see these messages that were deep into it coming back, from the different NDE reports, then I thought, wow, I have to tell people about this. And so that was my first book, The Wonder of You. And then as years went by, because that was like 10, no, wait a minute, that's 12 years ago that book was published. So I've done a lot of learning and growing since then. So I I just said, okay, I will. I wrote another book, and it was an update of that book. So the beginnings are very similar. And it's the back information, the back of the book that's new, or, the newer kind of learning. And then since then, just, I would say a month or two, a couple of months ago, um, I was sitting in my easy chair and looking out the window and not thinking about anything in particular. And all of a sudden, new information came. And it was like, yes. And one of it was that the love that Andy ears are feeling is their love because of the oneness. They are one, and they're feeling themselves. They're not feeling God's love, or the source love, or, the creative energy. They're feeling their own love because they are source.
Hmm.
And so that's what's happening, is that they're waking up to their own love. But here's the thing, that also goes to us because we are one too. And so there's no separation between living and the spirit world. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I've come to INs. That's how I started to understand what happened to me. I had what they call near-death experience, and I've experienced the love, but I've also experienced coming back in from that experience and having love with me for the next 3 days. So I carry that energy and vibration, before it started to dissipate, as we get back into life, it kind of assimilates. But yeah, the love, they do all talk about the love is one of the topics, which is also in your book, and the oneness. And a lot of people tend to look at oneness in different ways. And I think a lot of it is based on our beliefs, what we hold, what we're told, from our understanding, the oneness or the love.
Yep.
And finding verbiage is hard, I think, sometimes for a lot of us who've had the experiences to really um, share what we're going through, what we've been through. I know it took me a long time to even find out what happened to me, like the dark night of the soul, the near death experience. Like I didn't know anything about it until afterwards, right?
Oh,
So I went through a lot of the experiences and then had to do research too myself, So it's really a really interesting journey, to say the
yeah.
least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
Are
that,
you familiar with ions?
I'm sorry.
Are you familiar with ions?
Oh, yes. I just gave an interview, and I have a webinar I'm going to be doing for them in May.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to dive in some topics, because in your recent book, it's called Beyond NDs.
Yes, it's going to be, you mean, is my webinar on MDEs? Is that
Your recent book.
my recent book? The recent book is the one that you read. That's the most recent. It was published in 2024, so it's a couple of years old now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So kind of wanted to kind of dive into a little bit about that. And because there are some interesting topics in there that I've learned along my way, in the journey as well. And a lot of people may not understand it. So like with our bodies, can you go in a little bit about like our bodies? Like,
Well, the theory is that, well, not a theory, I believe it's actually true, is that we are soul, and we know that. Um, and the oneness is a reality. And so what I was saying is that the energy that's in the universe is also within us, because when source created, there's nowhere, there is literally nothing and nowhere that isn't the essence of source. Everything, like my bottle here, you know everything is source. My computer, my chair, but humans and life, not just humans, life is also connected at the conscious level. So consciously, we're not just source energy, we're also connected through our consciousness. And so we can use that energy in our everyday lives to bring about all we need to do is to be meditate and be aware of that being our reality, that we are source, and that every ounce of us is is love energy,
Mm-hmm.
because the love for source isn't an emotion. Love for source is its essence, its soul. And so the soul is um, the part that goes out. So there's no way that everything has love, everything, because it's embedded in source. It's source, the soul of source. And so it's embedded in everything that source does. So we are source love, but we have this conscious connection. And so that was what I was talking about. I also was talking about some um, experiments that have been done, and that that prove, or I can't, I hate the word to prove, certainly illustrate, to me anyway, that we are connected to source, and we're one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Andy Ears, I've heard this before, that this is a special time in the world, and I think that's absolutely right, because Andy Ears and ST Ears and spiritual people are changing the world. The world is just becoming a whole different place. We need it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a different world right now that we're going that I'm experiencing. But also I'm different. Having gone through all my experiences, I'm not the same person. Like I don't even really recognize that other person that I was. Um, but and then with the body, just to continue that um that topic, with that, there's some that say they have a body as they're transitioning over to their side. Some say not. So there's a little difference there. I didn't have a body when I was on the other side. I was still
Oh,
me.
okay.
It was
Okay.
still my consciousness, my
Mm-hmm.
awareness. But as
Mm-hmm.
a physicality, I didn't have a physical being on the other side. So I know there's a little difference between what people experience as far as the body goes.
Yeah, coming back is really a shock for a lot of end ears, because over there things are so different from here. And then, I mean, there's some people can't readjust. I gave a talk, and after the talk, a lady came up to me and said, "I'm just marking time until I can leave again. I don't really care." And she was here for a purpose, for a reason. So she had to fulfill her purpose before she could go back. But I thought that was really sad, that she's here. So why not make it as good as you can possibly do, instead
Mm-hmm.
of, but she was terribly depressed about being back.
Mm-hmm. I think some of them are because the love and everything is so different. The love is amazing, the colors, the energy, the vibration, everything.
Mhm.
There's no
And
time. It's so
yeah,
different
yeah,
on so many different levels. And,
yeah.
one could
I
see why one would be depressed
yeah.
and unhappy about coming back, you know.
Yeah, there are things that are um, individual for each person,
Mm,
and that's just like things are individual for each life that we have here. So end ears are very individual depending on the end person, but there's also a whole pile, there's over 30 um, what I call universal elements. And they're things that everybody experiences when they're on the other side, like what you were talking about, telepathy and travel by thought and the time and, and the difference in the colors and music and, just the vast difference in how much more real it is there compared to here.
Mhm.
And so there's about 30 different things. And when you tear them apart, it's because we are one. If you look at each one of those what I call universal elements, each one is that it acts like that because we are one.
Mhm.
And it just goes right back to our being, our reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and then there's some that are going to be different, based on, our takeaway from it, our experience, how we want to look at it, and how we want to proceed, I think, with life after the experience. Yeah, because some will be depressed or some will be happy, and some
Yeah,
will, you know, carry
yep,
out their purpose and some won't. It's
yep,
all really going to be different based on the individual. But yeah, there are some significant, you know,
hmm,
things that are the same,
yeah,
that we all go through. So definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so one topic I kind of wanted to go into, I don't know if you came across this because a lot of people um, say they have, and I've experienced this, orbs of light, right? So people experience orbs of light, but then the crossover is, if we're light beings, what are these orbs of light? Have you come into any, like, during your research, what orbs of light are? They're the spirit or the soul, or what are the orbs of light?
You mean orbs here at the human level?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have not personally experienced it. I've seen, videos and so forth of them, but I have not personally experienced them. Um, but that brings me to ghosts. I always wondered what are ghosts. I couldn't figure that out. And when I was doing my research, this really bothered me. There were a number of people or souls that refused to go to the light. They knew it was there and it was calling them, but they wouldn't go because they didn't feel they were worthy. They felt that they were, you know, less than worthy. And so they chose to stay here, which
Yeah.
is really sad because that's their own reality, that's their being. And they're not allowing themselves to be all that they can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely, it could be something that maybe a belief system, like sometimes religion, you know, they'll tell you there's nothing after this, or
Yeah,
don't, things like that, or our worthiness, what did we do in life, what did we do?
yeah,
So definitely, yeah, I've had a lot of experiences with orbs and just trying to make that connection. Because like there was one time that I was meditating on the beach and it was just after the sunset, where but you could still kind of see and I was meditating and then something told me to open my eyes and take a picture and I did and in the picture there was like thousands of orbs around me.
oh,
It was
yeah,
really, I was surrounded by orbs and I'm like,
oh,
is
yeah.
that spirit? Is that what is that? Because nothing, it wasn't like ghosts. Because like I don't know, they didn't really do anything to me. You know what I mean? They were just all around me, orbs. Um, and it was really an interesting energy and vibration. I don't really know, so I'm still trying to put terms to that
Yeah,
experience, but I've had experiences with ghosts per se. So it's totally different experience. Um, yeah. So, but I don't want to get into that because that's more like a ghost topic.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but yeah, so you also talk about gender in your book, that
Well,
we don't really have gender on the other side.
yeah, there is no gender. We're that's a human thing, you know.
Mhm,
We're just soul, you know, and we're
mhm,
oneness. So I mean, we're one soul because oneness means there is one being, one soul that experiencing all of this, and we are it.
mhm,
And so, so this gender is just, it's just part of the human situation, or I don't know what word to call it, but yeah,
mhm.
it's just what
Yeah,
happens when you're human. But yeah, that's strictly physical.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because we were just recently going through this whole gender contemplation, I'll just say, where a lot of people were up in arms about gender. What is gender? Who are we? Is it our identity? Things like that. Um,
Well, when people leave, those many people see themselves still. I mean, first of all, there's 2 points on this. First of all, when they leave the body, they see themselves as exactly the same. They feel the same. They think the same. They are the same. So the me that is here and the me that I will be when I pass is exactly the same. I don't, my attitudes, my thoughts, everything is the same. I may learn more on the other side, and that will change my thoughts. But when I first leave, I'm me. There's no difference. And so, oh dear, now I've lost my train of thought. What was the question?
oh, we were talking about genders and going
Oh
on
yeah,
the.
yeah. So um, when we identify, and so when we leave, we often have physical experiences over there, and many people do. More and more people aren't. But when NDEs first came out, almost everybody um, had a physical experience because that's what they thought they were supposed to do. That's what they thought was.
Mhm,
And but we create our own experience, just like we're creating this experience. And so, um, and so they would go there and have these experiences, and think that they were one. And like for example, I have one young man who went to his grandmother's house and sat on her front porch and had coffee with her. And another person, um, went to a beautiful building and read the book of whatever that is of their life. And so these were things that we created when we were there because we are creative force and we can create anything we want.
mhm,
And so we create that. But there are, as I say, the universal ones as well.
mhm. Yeah. And from some of my understanding, from what I take away, is like we do go from the physical to the non-physical, and then back to source originally. So it's the undoing of the physical aspect into the non-physical. So there may be a point in time where, and a lot of them say, well, I can't go past here because then there is no coming back, which is, I don't know why that is, but it seems like as we are shifting from this physical reality to that reality, like we shed the body and aspects of ourselves, but we're still ourself, our consciousness. So at some point we don't have like a physical body, it's more of a light body.
Yes,
And
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. Yes, there's more and more people are having light bodies,
Mm-hmm.
um, or at least floating in this not, well, I'm not sure what they float in because maybe it's whiteness, I don't know. In, it like they see other souls and they see the source, but they themselves are not physical. So, and the world around them isn't physical. But I haven't had, I don't know what they do see. What did you see? When you said you weren't physical, but were you inside or outside of the light?
So when I left the body, I was in the void where it was really pitch black. And then in the black void, because I realized I wasn't in the physical reality anymore. Like I didn't have a body, like I couldn't see my body. I didn't have feet to move. I couldn't move. It was just
Sure,
my consciousness knowing that it was me. And then there was the light that came. And then within the light where there was three beings. And they said I have to use telepathy because I tried to speak to them, but I couldn't because I didn't have a body.
yeah,
So when I realized what telepathy was, they helped me to understand that. Once I connected with the telepathy, I was able to go with them. And so I went into the light into the other side. And so on the other side, it was just light. It was just bright light, just as light as the dark pitch was black, you know. And from there there was a lot of things that were going on.
mhm,
You know, there was like it was really huge and immaculate. Like I didn't even there was it's hard to explain. Like I can't really explain it still, but things just happened immediately. There was no waiting, no time. You know, everything was immediate. You know, you can create whatever. And so the minute you thought of it, or it was, and so you could construct things on the other side without doing anything. It just appeared. But at the same time, it was like people were hovering, it was everywhere, going and moving about. And, you know,
mhm,
it's really hard to put in words
mhm, mhm.
about what
Yeah,
I explained. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah. But I was there with a lot of other beings, you know, we were talking, well, not physically talking, but mentally, you know,
communicate.
telepathy,
Yeah,
communicating, and we just knew and everything.
yeah,
And I did a
yeah,
life review, and yeah, and then I chose to come back. So,
mm,
yeah, it was really interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, did you fight about coming back when you found
No,
out?
I don't think I did. From what I come back with, I remember saying I was going to come back, but I also, when I initially came into this life, I agreed to come into this life. I
Mm,
came back with that knowing that I signed up to come, you know, and go through my journey. So, um, yeah,
mm,
and I knew when I was coming back, I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I still chose to come back, you know. So,
yeah, yeah,
mhm. Yeah. I know some people will say that they're forced to come back. I don't know if that's necessarily
yeah,
maybe a great way or accurate way to depict that, because we always have choice and free will. They may use ways to help convince them need to come back, and then once it's their choice they come back. You know, what about, they may pose the question, you know, what about your child, or they might show them the life review, this is what's going to
yeah,
happen if you don't come back.
yeah.
But we still always have a choice to come back, you know.
Yes, yes, yes. People, that's often the case that they'll come back when they realize either their goal and what they're supposed to be doing, and the guides will show them that, or they will come back when they realize their loved ones need them.
Mm-hmm.
So those are, yeah, that happens.
Yeah, yeah. So
I've only
there's
read one. I think her name is Sharon Safer, I think. Um, anyway, she uh, was in a very serious car accident. And she, 6 months before this, or maybe seven, she had had a baby boy. And so her little baby was at home when she had this accident. And and then she was on the other side, and they wanted her to stay. And she fought and fought and fought, would not accept that she was dead. She wanted to go back and raise her child, and because the child needed his mummy. And so they were saying, but this is all planned. This is arranged. You agreed to this before you. No, I'm not. I do, and so on. So finally, the light or whatever, a larger being came on the scene and said, let it be. And so they did. But it was with the knowledge that they had interrupted the life experiences that all the other people were going to have by not having her in the world.
Mhm.
So that was a very interesting, but that's the only one that I know where people have fought to get not stay.
Yeah, I've not heard of that. That's interesting. Yeah, because we all have a part in it. We all have a play because it something else, we all choreograph everything, from my understanding. And, if we're not there, how like it doesn't exist, it doesn't happen. Is a plan B.
Yeah, yeah,
There's always another plan, from what they tell me. So even if we choose not to, there's always another way, right? It's not just a one and done. They
yeah,
make
yeah,
room
yeah,
for error. They make room for,
yeah,
us to make, choices
yeah.
and decisions that maybe we changed our mind on. So there's always a
I, I
backup
would
plan.
I would like to mention something about suicide. People who have suicide do not get punished. There is no punishment ever for anything. But even horrible things that people do, they're not punished. They punish themselves, yes, but the source or you know, yeah, your higher, the oneness, the higher being, whatever, does not punish. There's no punishment. Um, However, people who now, what was I going to talk about? Oh, I had a lady who came back and she saw angels. She was driving, she was back now. She'd had I don't remember why she died. I think an illness killed her. And then she was brought back. And by the way, she still had her illness. They didn't cure her. So anyway, she comes back and one day she's driving down the street and she sees this fuzzy something or other around a man who was changing a tire on his car, and and she looked, and there was an angel above him, and so all of a sudden she started seeing angels above every single person. Every person that she saw had at least one angel.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple experiences with angels throughout my my awakening journey, so I do say that they do exist.
Oh yeah.
So mm-hmm,
Well, you know what? They're all part of the same oneness. And
mm-hmm.
so people have asked me that. Are there angels and do they exist? Are they real? Because I'm saying we're all one. Um, they are because we need them. They, Source knows how difficult it is to be separated in this existence. And we need help. We need support. And so, yes, there are angels or guides or whatever word you want to call them. And I know I have a whole group, I have a crowd around me for some reason. I'm not quite sure what that's about, but I have a whole pile of people or souls around me. Um, and so, yeah, we all do. We all do. Every single one of us has as many as we need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they help with different things. I've understood. Yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up, that there's no punishment. It's one of the things that I channeled during my channel writing sessions. There's no punishment, judgment, only what we deem to be worthy and right or
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
about ourselves. We're the only ones. That's why they have the life review. We judge ourselves.
Yeah.
Um,
So the one thing that matters is how we treat each other. That's what we get judged on. But we do the judging ourselves, not outside sources. Yeah,
mhm.
that's right.
Yeah. And it's more of a learning. thing versus a judgment, you're going to hell kind of thing, right? Unless we believe that we belong there and then we want to put ourselves and create a reality of it, then, that's part of our right to choose that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, I've
from
had people who have them put themselves in hell because they think that's where they belong, and then they have been removed from hell, and and now they're in the where the light is and everything is so beautiful and all the love and so on. And so they say, what was that all about? And repeatedly, every single one of them is told that was your creation. You did that. You were the ones who put yourself there.
do that now, I've heard of past lives reincarnating, um, and
Mm.
and part of that is like you know part of our lives. If we don't accomplish what we came to accomplish, we come back in. Now, my guides in my channelings, they say it's really no reincarnation. It's just another incarnation from a
Mhm,
different
mhm.
soul being,
A
the opposite.
continuation. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a continuation. What we don't complete, kind of like homework, what we don't
yeah,
complete, we'll do
yeah.
it in the next, class or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's an ongoing continuation of the soul's
Yeah,
journey,
yeah.
basically, and working out all these, and everybody's going to have the same not the same exact experiences, but you're going to be working on the same, um, I guess the
I
word is
believe, yes, I believe that
skill.
people who are spiritual, who are really into this kind of thing, have had many, many, many lifetimes. You know, I think that's why we're more spiritual than others. Um, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But reincarnation, I wanted to mention one thing that I think most people have wrong. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it like that, but there's another way of seeing it. And that is karma. I do not think, and you've actually brought it out, karma is not a punishment. We are not sent back because we didn't do it right. That's not the, we just, like you said, we just didn't learn yet. We need to it's just like a child. We need to learn that. And so there's no punishment or anything if a child doesn't understand. We just teach them a different way and they pick it up.
Yeah, yeah. It's different ways of learning it. Different lives we learn, either whether we're going to be female in that lifetime or male in that lifetime. There's different ways
Yes,
and
yes,
ways we can come to it to learn it. And, there's just another opportunity. So yeah, I don't believe that there's karma as a punishment. These are, but definitely, I think we covered a lot of it already. Was there anything else that you wanted to share or talk about
yes, I
that's in your
do.
book? Because there's a lot, actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My main message is that everyone is so beautiful. You are amazing. You are so beautiful and magnificent and stupendous. There aren't adjectives or to say how magnificent you are, um, because we are one with Source, and and because of that, we are just as magnificent as Source is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Where can people find your book, or you have a website
Yeah,
available?
yeah, I do. My book is called Beyond NDEs: The Next Step in Near-Death Experience Research, and the website is lynnKrussell.com. Super easy. Or you can just Google my name. Just be sure to get the K because there's a bazillion Lynn Russells in the world. So just lynnKrussell.com or just Lynn K. Russell. Google me and you'll find my social media and how to contact me, and it's all there.
Beautiful. And then do you have any other books that are coming up?
Well, I'm really, really busy doing. I have a children's book that I would like the opportunity to talk about. It's called Warple. Um, and it's a story for kids that are in middle school age bracket. And what the story is, I got a hair on my face. Um, what the story is that a boy named Cam is 13. He lives in the projects and in subsidized housing, and he is a little overweight, but it's because he's big bones and big, he's a big man. And so he's constantly being teased by this Jason and his gang. And so, so, sorry, Cam uh, is really angry at the world. He's getting angry. He's angry about his size. And he's got bright red hair that he hates. He just isn't happy. He doesn't like his little sister because she's a pest and a damn nuisance. And so, well, I don't say damn in my, but anyway, she's a nuisance and she causes all kinds of problems. And so he is starting to get into a bad crowd and a bad, attitude. And he's looking for trouble. So, anyway, through a homework project, he finds himself in another world, or actually another dimension. And it's called Warple. And it's the world of Warple. And so, this Warple is, it's a cartoon world, and it's filled with all kinds of warm, fuzzy creatures. And And while he's there, an evil magician or an evil force comes into this world, and this world is full of warm fuzzies and love and caring and all that. And so they've never dealt with an evil before. They don't know what to do, and so Cam helps them. He goes and they take a trek across across the Warple world, and they go to Zarlok, who is the great the guy that knows it all. And anyway, so during the trip, he learns many life lessons that kids can take home with them to their real life, and that is that we are never alone, that we are always, there's always, we're all connected to one another. And so we're never quite alone, even if we think we are. That anger and resentment come back at you and will hurt you. And so, it's a good idea not to go there. Uh, that love caring and kindness are not wimpy things, that they are strengths and power, and that love is the most important element there is in the universe, and that what they think about, they bring into their world. So,
Beautiful. I like that idea. We need more books like that,
yeah, so it's on Amazon, Warpo.
Yeah, beautiful. And you'll be able to send me that link and I'll put that also in the description. But that kind of brings up the topic that I wanted to talk about because you mentioned it and I forgot. But like the topic that we're never alone, this was one thing that came up for me is, so it was interesting when they showed it to me from this perspective, is like when we come into this body, we have everybody on the other side and we leave them, and we come in here, but we're also greeted by everybody here, right? So even on that level, we're not alone. And then we transition to the other side, we're going back to them on the other side and leaving here. So we're never alone, even on that level, our transition through
Alone
life.
because we're one. We're never alone because we have the angels with us, and because we're connected to one another.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just different forms of it. you know. So
That
that's a beautiful
perspective.
journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing is disabilities. You talk a little bit about actually about that in your book, disabilities. Now I talked with Asher and Jess. He's an autistic mystic. I don't know if you've heard of them, or the tapes, the telepathy tapes. So he's autistic, and I had asked them about disabilities because there's the whole conversation about whether, do we have disabilities because we're getting, the shots, the injections, from all that kind of stuff. And what he
Okay.
mentioned was,
Okay.
with him having autism, is that we we have these as part of a genetic alteration. So the two parents that will help create the disability are linked up. We create and plan that before him, and we already know that we're going to have that disability,
Yeah.
right? So
And
it's
well,
not.
I think there's two levels of disabilities,
Mhm,
um, because right now there's this saying going around that says there are no accidents and that everything is meant to be, and that's not true. There are accidents, and everything is not meant to be. There are definitely things that we have chosen before we come into this life that are meant to be. But
mhm,
there are also accidents, and that depends on maybe our own choices or somebody else's choice that affects us. And
mhm,
so, and so sometimes we come here with a disability, or we come here knowing that we will gain a disability while we're here. Um, but at other times, it's an accident, and
mhm,
you know, and if it interferes too deeply with our ability to be able to complete our tasks that we're here to do, but we may just change our task in the middle of the they and that does happen because nothing is written in stone because we are one with source and you can't tell source it can't change its mind.
right, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's like I had a session with two people, and so they were both female, and they wanted to have a child together. So they chose to have that type of relationship, that type of lifestyle, so that they can have artificial insemination by another person.
Oh
And the
yeah,
angel that came in during that session told me the only way that that child could have that DNA, that experience, is to have them two link up, to have it that way. And so
yeah.
both, even though it's the DNA structure that helped create that baby,
Mm.
um, the other partner was going to help play a significant role in that life, right? To help change
Yeah,
it because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
found out that the person who donated was into drugs and things like that.
yeah,
So, so they're all playing a part and a role in it, even though it's not
yeah.
our usual way of
Good point.
conceiving a child. So
Yeah.
everything is,
So there, well, okay, everything at the spirit level is meant to be,
mhm,
and there are no accidents at that level. But in this physical world, being human, we have egos, and we
mhm,
can change things. We can decide not to do our goal, whatever it is that we can just say, and how many people do you really know that do this? They go to work, they come home, and they stop. They don't learn more, they don't do more, they don't explore, you know, they don't test themselves to find out their limits. They don't interact unless they're absolutely like they just shut themselves down.
mhm,
And I know many, many people who do that
mhm,
because I used to be a family counselor and I would see them, and particularly men more than women. But it does happen. I'm sure there are women too.
mhm. Yeah. And I'm wondering if it's because we picked a lot to do in this lifetime and we just kind of like are overwhelmed, with it in
Could
some
be, could
cases,
be. Yeah. So instead of suicide, we just shut down. That's a good point. Yeah.
Have you heard about the Hawaiian prayer, the healing?
Oh no, I haven't. Or maybe I haven't. I tell me.
So there's a Hawaiian prayer that's, I forget its name. But when I first was going into the counseling field, somebody had handed me the book and was like, here, you're going to need this. So I read it and started using the practice. It's the Hawaiian prayer. So Ho'oponopono, there's, you look within yourself for the person who is sitting in front of you, and you do the healing work. So what the guy did is basically instead of seeing the clients, he just went through their charts and he did healing work around it. Since we're all one, he healed on that level because he
Yeah,
would carry some of it because they were in front of him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So I use
And
that.
there's so much wonderful stuff that's happening, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and there's like I said, the plan B, even if we, don't choose to do what we're supposed to do or make a mistake or, accidents happen, there's always the plan B,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when I channeled um I did with Richard Martini, he
Mhm.
walked me through like a hypnotic a meditation and
Uh,
Jesus said he said everything is going to be perfect, everything's fine. In the
great.
end it's perfect because it's all
Yeah,
choreographed,
yeah,
and though we worry about it and stress about it in life, we
yeah,
have all these tribulations
yeah,
here, but in
yeah.
the end, everything is perfect.
And I am always getting messages. Like it's almost daily. I mean, like I get reminders of things, or um, I'm in the middle of doing something, and then that's not a good idea, or you're going to break it, or you're going to lose it, or whatever. I get many, many messages.
Hmm. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
One other
Oh,
thing I just want to say, um, I am quite old. I'm 87. I'll be 88 in June, and I love life. I love my life. And I live in a seniors apartment building. And I mean, I have a one-bedroom apartment and it's really quite lovely. But anyway, so I'm in this apartment building and so many of my other people in the building have turned off. Like they're waiting for death.
hmm.
It's just existing. Life can still be absolutely magnificent, even at this level. Because, okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. We're not out of town, are we? We
No.
don't, yeah, we've still got time.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was a child, in grade two, oh, before that, when I was 5 months old, I had a very serious illness. And I don't know if I died or not. That I suspect I might have. And maybe that's why I was the only spiritual one in this family. This family who could care less about spirituality. Anyway, but anyway, the point of it is that this illness that I had pneumonia in both lungs plus whooping cough. And I was 5 months old. And so the doctor took one look at me and ran me to the hospital. Um, but he told my mother, when my mother came to get me, he said, children who have had really high fevers and illness like Lynn has, um, often are retarded when and sorry, they used that word in those days, um, retarded when they grow, get older. So when I was 7 in grade two, I was assessed as mentally slow. And I was put in special classes for people who are mentally slow. I lived my life as a mentally slow person. right up until I was 31. At 31, I was seeing a psychologist. And I told the psychologist that I was mentally slow. And he said, "You're not mentally slow." I said, "Yes, I am. I'm just pretending to be smart." And I really truthfully believed from my teens on, I believed that I was pretending to be smart so that people couldn't figure out that I was slow. Okay. So so this psychologist said, "Lynn, you can't pretend that you're smart when you're not." And I said, oh. And so he said, "I want permission to give you an IQ test." And so that scared me. I said, "Okay, fine, but I want to know the results for sure, like, you know, black and white." And so he said, "Yeah, okay, that's fair." So I did this IQ test, and it was one that didn't have a lot of math. It had problem solving, but not math. And so, anyway, uh, the next time I saw him, he said, "You're university material." And that's a quote. He said, you should be in university getting a degree." And I thought, oh, I mean, and then I didn't believe him because after all, I'd just had 31 years of being slow. So, and another thing that happened is that when you're slow, other people make your decisions for you, like mothers and sisters and brothers and whatever. My sister and my mother were terrible, and my dad. They made all my decisions for me. If I was going to do something, "Oh, you don't want to do that," and they would do it for me. Anyway, what that meant is that I didn't know how to make decisions. So
Mm.
here I am, an adult, 31, in an abusive relationship, and with 3 kids. And so I left. And as I say, I didn't believe this. I was terrified because I didn't know how to make decisions. And I'm thinking, I'm going to mess up. I know I'm going to mess. And maybe that's why when I heard that my being was a part of the universe, or connected to the operation of the universe, maybe that's why I had such a hard time, because I was really scared of the responsibility on my own shoulders alone. And that's how I felt like I was. Anyway, so I went to the Board of Education and got correspondence courses. Uh, and I asked for grade 11 English and grade 10 math. I had never gotten out of grade 8. So I just was being very, very bold. And I was getting 80s and 90s. And I blew myself away. I thought, how can this be? So I I quit that. I only did it for maybe a few months. I don't know how long, 6 months. Anyway, and I went to college and walked in the door. Now, talk about meant to be. Whoa. I walked into that college and I walked up to I didn't know anything, nothing. So I walked up to the registrar and I said, "I want to come here." So she says, "Well, where's your transcripts?" And I said, "What transcript?" No idea what a transcript was. There was a man standing, listening in behind her. And he came to me and he said, "Come with me." And I don't know what possessed him to do this, but anyway, come with me. And he took me to an empty classroom. He sat me on the desk, in the chair, and then he sat on the desk and he said, "Tell me your story." I told him my story because I have a huge story. Anyway, so I told him my story. And he said, "You're in." That was it. I was in. And I was accepted. His class was behavioral sciences, and he accepted me. And he was the one who got me in. And
Beautiful.
from there on, I was on my own, you know. But I just fell in love with learning. I mean, I didn't know learning could be so great. So that was one of the things. The other thing about being retarded or slow and then finding this new person was the person I was wouldn't fit somebody who was mentally that was bright and intelligent. I mean, I didn't. This image that I had of myself was, gee, gosh, I'm unworthy, and so I had to build a whole new me in my head. So I pretended that there was this woman in my brain. I pretended I was like her. I mean, and that's how I became the person I am. But one of the things that went together was what can I do? I don't know. I didn't know what I could do and what I couldn't do. And so I challenged myself. I I tried things out like art and like the writing and just different things in the learning in the universe and the different topics of university. I fell in love with science. I just fell in love with science because I saw a galaxy. My first galaxy, we're talking 60s and no 70s, 1970s. I saw my first galaxy on a television and oh my God, that was so beautiful. I couldn't believe anything so beautiful could be in the universe. And so I wanted to know more. And so that got me on another branch of learning. And so that was what I've done all my life.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful.
so what,
That's very important to share because I think a lot of people when we're younger, we kind of impose these beliefs and we grow into them. And even though they may not be true, we take that
yeah,
persona on and we live in that reality,
yeah.
right? So,
And
yeah.
and what it taught me was don't shortchange yourself.
Hmm.
Don't take what other people say about you.
Hmm.
Find out for yourself where your limits are.
Hmm. Yeah, and that kind of happened to Asher, and they diagnosed him. And when we get diagnosis, that was one thing when I went into helping people with addictions counseling, is I never wanted to diagnose anybody because I knew that when you put that on somebody, they live up to that expectation. We have this
Mm,
inner
mm, mhm.
inner being that lives up to our potential, and if that potential that we believe ourselves is to
Yeah,
be low standards or low,
yeah.
mentally,
Okay.
emotionally, physically, then
Yeah,
we're going to live up to that.
yeah.
Right. So we always want to set our goals higher. And if we don't reach them, we don't reach them, but at least we're not limiting ourselves. Hmm. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful. Is there any last
Well,
words that you would like to share?
well, just what I've said that you are far more beautiful than you even realize, and you can accomplish more. You can accomplish miracles. Just
Beautiful.
trust yourself.
Yep.
That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you could join us today, Lynn. It was a beautiful conversation, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you and me. We're not the one and only. It's going to happen to everybody. Yeah, baby. Say it isn't so, baby. It's the truth, don't you know, baby? We're all consciousness, living out our reason in a world of endless stories. Said from the beginning, we race to the finish as we face the harsh reality. We don't remember